We're back to the Neil Haley Show, and also we have to really enjoy these conversations with different law firms. And thank you, LegalSoft, for this opportunity. And today we have Tyler Wilk from Wilk Law. How are you, Tyler? Appreciate you coming by, man. And we're gonna learn about your story and stuff. And first question I have for you is, why did you decide to practice law? And was this something you wanted to do your whole life?
Yeah, great question, and thanks, and looking forward to being here. So definitely not something I wanted to do my whole life. I was kind of a late bloomer, or a late mature, I guess you could say. Graduated college, didn't really know what direction I wanted to go in. My dad was in real estate, thought I wanted to get into real estate, did residential sales for a little bit, then went into the commercial market, got my license, started doing some commercial appraisals. And while I was doing commercial appraisals, we were working with some law firms, and they were litigating some of these property cases while we were doing the appraisals. And I liked what they were doing more than what I was doing. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to try to go to law school and, maybe get into that side of the business and do it that way. So that's kind of how the idea of becoming a lawyer came into effect.
And isn't it funny, once you go to law school, you change your tune on what to cover, like what your specialty is going to be. Kind of like
Yeah.
a medical school. In a way, you learn from studying what really is something that gives you passion. So you're going to choose to specialize in that. So you have a story like that, how you chose injury?
Yeah, I actually have a pretty funny story on, well, it wasn't funny at the time, but looking back, it is. So I was on my first semester, my first year of law school. Ironically, I just finished my torts final exam, which was my last final exam before winter break. So I go out to celebrate. I'm at a local bar in Westchester, Pennsylvania, and just finished my torts exam, done for winter break. I have a couple drinks, and I lived across the street at the time, about a block or two down. So I leave the bar, I'm walking across the street, and a drunk driver pulls out from a parking lot, speeds, and hits me as I'm crossing the street, knocks me onto the ground. So lay there, sustain some pretty significant injuries. And of course, one of the first things I do is I hire a personal injury attorney to help me with my case. Long story short, they completely botched it. I ended up with a terrible recovery. It was a terrible result. They actually left me, they basically said at the end of the case, you can either take this and leave it, or you can reimburse us all of our costs and handle it on your own. And at that point, I'm a law school student. I don't have any money, so I didn't have an option. But during that time frame, I learned a lot about the litigation process and personal injury. And I said to myself, this is what I want to do when I graduate, and I want to help people actually get justice versus what this person actually did for me. So that's kind of how it came to be.
And you said, wow. And is it kind of like you said that you wouldn't have gotten justice if you didn't hire a personal injury lawyer? They didn't care, right? They're like, I hurt you, but here's my insurance information or whatever, and nothing serious. And if you didn't go to a personal injury lawyer, you wouldn't have gotten the coverage you needed, right? The damage and the pain and suffering that you went through.
Yeah, correct. And even the personal injury lawyer I had didn't do a great job. So it motivated me to, do the same thing he did, except actually, get justice for our clients and do what's supposed to be done. So.
Okay. So let's kind of go to this next part of that. The journey process is you were ready to start your practice. Did you have an idea in business, I guess because you were involved in real estate with your family, that you knew how to run a business, and it was kind of, you were ready for that to try to scale your law firm?
No, not at all. Quite the opposite. So I worked for a couple firms, worked on the defense side of things for a little while, personal injury defense, insurance defense. And then I switched over to the plaintiff side, worked for a firm for about a year or two. I did everything. I brought in business. I worked cases from inception through trial. And I just wasn't pleased with how they ran the company, or I guess how I was appreciated as an employee. So I thought I wanted to start my own firm. So I started to see if I could get cases in on my own on the side, and started doing that. And I got to about, I think I had three cases on my own. And I was at my job, and sometimes I would take calls during the day for potential clients that came in. And one day one of the paralegals heard me on the phone with a potential client, but not for this firm. They told on me. The office manager called me down in the conference room and basically said, you can either do your own thing or you can stay with us, but you can't do both. So that's when I decided I was going to leave and focus on doing my own thing, and the rest was history.
That's it. Then you decide. So you learn from them. You said, I don't like how it's running, and I start my own business. Once you started that law firm, what were the biggest major challenges of growing your practice?
I would say the biggest challenge was finding out how to bring in business. And, that was like my biggest fear when I started was, how can I find a consistent way to bring in business and make sure that well doesn't dry up? Because if it does, I'm not going to be able to, pay my bills or overhead, and obviously not going to make any money. So my main focus when I started my firm was figuring out how I can bring in business without having to spend an arm and a leg.
And that's the challenge, right? And going and doing that. What do you think were the way that you helped kind of scale that law firm to build it up? What was bringing in business was the challenge? What do you think is your secret sauce to be able to do that?
I think that I think hustle and determination took me a long way. I started networking. I met doctors. I took them out to lunch. I would, back in the day, I remember I would go to doctors' offices and I would sit there from 9 to 5, and clients that came in from auto accidents that didn't have representation, I'd give them a free consultation. And I went door to door all around the city of Philadelphia, and, the rain, snow, shine, whatever it was, I did everything I could to network with people, get business, and those people referred family and friends, and it just, started an avalanche from there.
Because what are you seeing? Were you even surprised how many cases are out there that could be possibly for personal injury? Was that a surprise? No,
it's super surprising. I mean, people think that, the competitors out there that spend, hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars eat up all the business, but it's not even a quarter of it. There's so much business out there, and there's so many people that need assistance that don't have assistance or don't know where to go. So that's definitely one thing I learned along the way.
what makes you different? Because again, there's a lot of competition for personal injuries. I guess you've mentioned in Philadelphia. What makes you different as a firm?
Yeah, I think one thing that we pride ourselves on is our communication with the clients, especially myself. A lot of the big firms in Philadelphia, if you call the firm and you have a consultation or you want to speak to an attorney, it's not going to happen. You'll speak to a case manager, you'll speak to a paralegal, you'll speak to an intake person. Even when the case is signed on, a lot of the times we get calls from clients. They don't know who their attorney is. They've spoken to them once. So a lot of my clients, I give them my personal cell phone. I'm in touch throughout the duration of the case. We try to make them feel as comfortable as possible, and we communicate to them throughout the entire process. So I don't think a lot of firms do that. And we pride ourselves on, keeping in contact with the clients. And, whether you have $100 case or $1 million case, we're going to give you the same, time and attention that you deserve. So,
and I'm sure you hear the stories of the big firms. They are 24/7, pick up the phone, meaning, you know what I mean? And then say, oh, we really can't handle this. This is not, we don't think we can win this. You really think outside the box, it sounds like, and say, okay, we really feeling for the person, because you too had to hire a personal injury lawyer who really didn't listen to your needs, understand your needs, and say, well, you know what, there is a case. Just because it might be a little bit harder to win, I'm going to go after it. I'm going to take this case on. Where a lot of people are like, hey, if there's a chance we could lose, we're not going to put out that would be a pro bono if you don't win, right?
Absolutely. No, you're 100% correct. And I've built a lot of my practice on that, and taking cases that those firms don't, give a second glance to, or they turn down, or they don't want to invest the time or money, and we'll take it and we'll invest it and we'll try to do our best. And most of the times we'll get a good outcome for the client. So, it's an unfortunate part of the industry. If you don't have broken bones or $1 million case, sometimes you don't get the attention or the justice you deserve. But we try to build our business model differently, and give everybody a chance regardless of the quote unquote value of their case.
It brings opportunity, right? Because then that opens the doors for you, and you might help somebody gain a little bit of money that they wouldn't have gotten the other firms, but that leads to more and more referrals. So the customer satisfaction, Tyler, seems like a really big part of what you do.
it's super underrated, and you nailed it on the head. I mean, I've had so many situations where I'll help a client and I'll get them a couple dollars, and we don't make money on it, and it's not much, but they're super appreciative. And then what happens? You know, when a family member of theirs or a friend of theirs gets in a bad accident, we're the first ones they call and refer us the case. So it always comes around full circle.
Now let's talk about who needs a personal injury lawyer. We hear all the commercials, right? For the big places. You know who we have in Pittsburgh. I mean, I'm not in Pittsburgh anymore, that he's constantly on television every second. Yeah, I'm sure you know that, just because probably the cases from Philly go to Pittsburgh sometimes. That the fact is that what kind of people should call a personal injury lawyer. There's a lot of things. People think, oh, just injured in an accident or a slip and fall, but there's so much more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, really anything that has to do with any type of injury. I mean, if you were injured while you were working, and, you know, it was a car accident or a slip and fall, not at your job, or you're delivering for DoorDash, or you were bitten by a dog, or, you know, medical malpractice, or, you know, there's just, it's an endless amount of cases that could be out there. But I would say really, you know, somebody that needs an attorney is if there's an incident that happens, you're injured in that incident, and you're dealing with an insurance carrier, you know, that's a telltale sign that you're going to need at least advice from somebody who's in that industry and has professional experience. Because from my experience, I'm sure you feel the same way, you know, dealing with insurance companies by yourself without a professional involved is never the right way to go. They have one job. It's to minimize the value of your claim or pay out as little as possible and maximize their profit. And that's what they'll do. Even if they try to tell you that they have your best interests in mind, they don't.
And that just kind of spreads you in so many different ways. So you learn so much about specific cases and look at specific things and are willing to do that. And some of these big injury firms, no, if it feels like it's going to be something that is not guaranteed to be achievable and it's going to take time, they don't take it on. And what you do is you pride yourself in that. That's such an important thing, because a lot of times we never know what we can do to help somebody, and it makes it feel so good to do that. You talked about, you know, malpractice. That's the one to really look at now, because medical field is becoming underserved. It's a big problem. When should you contact a personal injury lawyer regarding that? Because let me give you an example. I have a friend that I'm gonna definitely have that conversation when I get off the air with you, that didn't think about that. Because when we try to see that sometimes a doctor is at fault, or somebody that's treated us, what is considered a reason to call you? Because a lot of people say, if it's nothing really serious, don't even call a personal injury lawyer.
Yeah, good question. And people don't realize that if you look up what the leading cause of death is in America, medical malpractice is number one. So people don't realize, you know, when you see a doctor, and, you know, everyone, including myself, when you see a doctor, you trust them, right? And you trust their judgment and what they're telling you, and you put your faith in them to do the right thing. But doesn't always happen, and it's not on purpose. You know, everyone makes mistakes, but sometimes these mistakes can cost you your life or a loved one's life. So, you know, if my advice is, do not delay. You know, medical malpractice cases are very lengthy. They take a long time. And in Pennsylvania, I'm not sure about other states, but you have to have another doctor certify that what happened was medical malpractice before you can even file the complaint. So all these things take time. You need expert reports, you need medical records, you need, you know, tons of diagnosis. So don't delay. If you think there's an issue, even if someone tells you it may not be big, always reach out. Every single personal injury attorney will give you a free consultation no matter what. So at least at the bare minimum, you can get a couple opinions and make your own assessment, you know, from that point forward.
All right. So we talked about all those different areas of personal injury, and that's definitely, we wanted also to thank again LegalSoft. How has LegalSoft helped grow your practice?
LegalSoft is great. So I just discovered LegalSoft a couple years ago, and I have, I think, 3 to 5 people from LegalSoft that are on my team right now, and they're just great. They're super hardworking. They vet them great. They offer a lot of services just aside from that as well. We utilize them for a lot of things, but they're a great company. They're a full service company, and, you know, anyone, anyone looking for anything, you know, VAs, marketing, anything like that, they pretty much cover everything, and they have connections with everyone in the industry. So they're a good resource to go to, even if you don't end up working with them, just to be pointed in the right direction.
And it's time, because especially you don't want to be constantly you want to respond quickly. And if you don't have a team in place, you can be as the bigger law firms that might have someone 24/7, but they're well trained. And that's the process, because you want to be at a football game. You want to be at different events. If you didn't have a team and scale a team, you would constantly be busy 24/7, because personal injury is like, again, restoration or anything that you never know when that accident's going to happen. You never know when that specific thing, you have to act quickly. And must be great to have that team.
Oh yeah, it's great, and you nailed it again. I mean, people that are calling in for help or looking for assistance on an injury claim, they have no patience, and I don't blame them. You know, they want to talk to someone, they want answers, they want to get the process moving forward. So, you know, our rule of thumb: if you don't contact the client back within 24 hours, I think they're on to the next one. You know, so it's super important having an efficient team in place, and having them trained and monitored properly so that they can be diligent in handling whatever comes their way.
Well, Tyler, this is great information. Where can the best place people can find info on you and stuff, Tyler? Where can they go?
My website's probably the best place, wilklawfirm.com.
Awesome. And contact Tyler today. And it's great to know that you're here for people that have been injured in an accident, because what happens if you don't have a resource available to help and protect you and fight for you, because the insurance companies are not going to fight for you. People that you got injured from are not going to help you. You need to have someone on your side, and Tyler is the guy, and Wilk Law is. Appreciate it, sir.
Thank you. Likewise. Thanks so much for having me on.
Welcome. You're listening and watching The Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.